This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by Sheath Underwear, the best underwear you're ever going to have, guys. It's boxers that are designed to keep your balls off your legs. It's as simple as that. Sheath has 3 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate and cool and comfortable. Your twigs aren't going to be running up against those berries anymore. Not with Sheath Underwear.
Traditional boxer briefs are barbaric. It's like they were invented during the Neanderthal era.
Yeah.
Sheath has a modern ergonomic design intended to prevent skin-on-skin contact for long durations, which can build up heat and sweat. Sheath prevents all that. It's the holy grail of underwear. I gotta tell you, you're gonna chafe and readjust less.
Less sweatiness.
Everything is kept in a separate compartment.
It's a spandex thing going on here. It's a nice fabric blend. It's cool to the touch. Has some absorption here. It keeps it all regulated down there. Get yourself some Sheath underwear by going to sheathunderwear.com/CU podcast to save 20% off your order today. That's Sheath Underwear, SHEATH underwear.com/CU podcast. Make sure to use that promo code CU podcast at checkout, or just click the link below if you're on YouTube. That's sheathunderwear.com/CU podcast for 20% off. Do yourself and your balls a favor. Grab yourself some Sheath underwear. Well, Ian, we got voicemails, don't we?
We do, and you're going to have to tell people how to get to them.
You go to anchor.fm/CU podcast, and you can leave us voice messages. You can even try your Don West impression. Here's the first one. You said you knew who that was. You actually know who that was? Do I know who that person is?
I think you've had interactions with them. Yeah.
Okay, now I feel bad.
Hey guys, this is Tim from Minnesota, and I'm just wondering what you guys most miss about retro gaming before all the hype. For me, it was going on the hunt and actually finding games for cheap. I remember turning away Turtles in Time on the SNES more than a few times because I had 3 copies.
It's common.
You just don't see games in the wild anymore anywhere, and it kind of sucks. Just looking for your feedback. Love the show, guys. Thanks.
Honestly, for me, and I don't think it's necessarily it's not a bad thing that more people are into it now. But I think the thing that I missed the most was, I don't want to say feeling like an exclusive club, because that's not it. It was the excitement when you found someone else to talk about this shit with.
Sure.
There was a large period of time where it was very uncool to be into that sort of thing. And I don't miss that, but it's hard to explain. There was a sensation where you found, like, I used to get made fun of for, like, multiple times. I remember going to the mall and flipping through, like, the NES games, and someone would be like, "Oh, look at you, why are you looking at that shit?"
Yeah, it wasn't for video games; it's for old games.
Right.
Yeah, you're a weirdo looking at old games.
Right. So, I miss that feeling of like, holy shit, other people out there exist. Obviously, the payoff is that I don't have to worry about it anymore. No one thinks it's fucking weird or anything like that. But I missed that weird, like, oasis in the middle of a desert feeling that you would get when you found someone else who was also into it. And of course,
this could be a larger topic too. We can.
That's about it for me.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Mark. Doing my commute right now, listening to the podcast. I just left you guys a message a couple of days ago asking to be the resident board game snob of the podcast. And what do I hear listening to an episode today? I hear Pat saying board games are $20.
Okay, I got some pushback on this.
Yeah, you really did, bud.
I'm not talking about the gourmet Kickstarter board games. I'm talking about the stuff that they, like, Amico's like, oh, we're going to replace board games. You can buy a pack of Uno cards for $6. A Game of Life is under $20. Battleship is $15.
Yes, but that's
traditional
board
games.
Not really what people play anymore.
Don't care. That's what board games were and are. That's what millions of people played. Millions of people aren't playing your $300 fucking goblins.
No, but they are now. That's the thing. Board games.
No, those are smaller run games. That's why they cost so much money. Milton Bradley's not putting out that stuff.
All right.
That's my point. You're gonna jump on me because you think here's the point. Families not buying.
You were wrong, Pat.
Families aren't buying $300 board games to play with Timmy and
No, but they're
Johnny.
buying plenty of $50 to $75 board games.
Plenty? All right, then. Okay, Mr. Moneybags in Buffalo.
Times change.
All right, we had the.
Pat, I'm talking about modern days. That's the problem. You're thinking about the old days.
You think parents can afford to buy 4 or 5 board games a year cost $75?
I'm saying
for kids.
I'm saying things like Ticket to Ride are very popular, and yes, people are buying stuff like Ticket to Ride and Catan and Carcassonne, and they're buying the expansions.
But those aren't kids playing that; those are adults playing that.
Okay,
I'm talking about kids.
All right, you can just continue to say things.
Amico. The whole point is the Amico was geared towards kids and old folks. The board games geared towards kids and old folks are Game of Life, Monopoly, the classics.
All right.
Connect 4.
All right.
Dizzy Dinosaur. They still make Dizzy Dinosaur? Is that a $150 game now? Right, next.
Hi, Pat. Hi, Ian. It's
Hi.
Paul from Detroit. I was just wondering what you would pick for a new name for the Washington football team. How about the 10-yard fighters? Or perhaps the play-action footballers? Just wondering what you think.
They did announce that they're finally going to... It's been like 2 years already. Think of a name. Next year, they're going to finally... I think after this season, next season, they're going to have a name for them.
People will hate me for saying this, but I actually kind of just like Washington football team.
They had a short list, and actually, yeah, there was Washington Red Wolves. That's a cool name.
Oh,
that was cool. One that people were like, yeah, that's a fucking cool name, and wolves aren't used enough for.
Yeah, that's a neat name.
You got Timberwolves, and that's it. So yeah, that was one that stood out. That I'll be shocked if that doesn't win. But the owner is a weirdo to begin with, so who knows? But Washington Red Wolves. I used to love the colors. I had a in my room hanging up. I used to go for Washington all the time when I was a kid. I just love the colors. Which is weird that I like the Giants.
Hi, Pat and Ian. This is David. I was just kind of wondering, do you guys have any specific reactions to seeing video game references in media, like movies or TV? Like, do you pick it apart? Do you make fun of it in your head or something? Or do you just not care?
I would say the turning point for retro games being acceptable was there was two moments in time, or they happened at the same time. This was about 6 years ago.
Only 6 years ago?
I'm talking mainstream.
Okay.
That's even before Pixels came out. There was two commercials. McDonald's had a commercial with Bowser giving a present to Mario. It was a little thing. It was like a calligraphy sort of thing with like roses. Remember that? And then there was a Trix commercial where they're playing Nintendo, and there were adults playing Nintendo. Like, oh, remember playing Mario? And I'm like, that's the first time I ever saw something like that happen, where it was a retro gaming stuff into mainstream, products. That was the first time ever. That was like 2015 or 16. That was right before the NES Classic and things like that. That to me was the big turning point where I'm like, okay, if people are in a boardroom spending millions of dollars to market these products, they know that people are liking this to market, if that makes sense. Sure. And that's when people were starting to have kids. People grew up with Mario were starting to have kids 5-10 years ago. So
the question is, did you pick apart appearances? Not when did you see appearances?
Well, I wrote down reactions to video games and references. No, I never picked them apart. My favorite movie, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I never picked it apart. I thought it's cute when it happened. I didn't see it. I was like, oh, this is cute. It's acceptable now, I guess. You're capitalizing on it. I don't know.
The one thing that I always remembered was that early on, before it became a more popular hobby, you always saw people playing video games in movies and commercials, and it looked nothing like a person playing video games or movies. The controller was always some fucking orb with 3 misplaced buttons on it.
They were still using a joystick for some reason.
Just pounding on it, and nothing ever looked like it was actually video games. And I think now that video games have become more mainstream, and the people who played them growing up are now in marketing positions. Yes. You now have more accurate representations of video game playing in commercials and in media.
We got CEOs of companies now that grew up with the NES,
right?
So it's acceptable. And that's what we said. Now, video games, it's not an oppressed group being a gamer. It's we're okay. We made it through. All right, next one here.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is Josh from Green Bay. Love the podcast, and I'm also a big fan of extra napkins. So I thought I would combine a question for both podcasts.
It's not allowed.
But mainly for Pat and Ian.
Okay.
What kind of food in video games do you think is your favorite? Something in a game that looks really delicious. Anime always makes food look good. So, and I saw a person do a video on trying to cook all the stuff in Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Well, you answered this question. We did this 2 years ago.
I don't know what my answer would have been then, but games where food looks good, Final Fantasy 15. Anyone who's played it can tell you the amount of time and effort they put into creating the food that you can cook at a campfire is absolutely insane, and I would eat so much of it.
That's not what you answered a couple of years ago. Did you answer Bubble Bobble a couple of years ago?
I think that was a different question.
It wasn't? that was power-ups, and I said
yes.
Food?
Yes. What
was your answer? You had a different question, a different answer, I thought, to that.
We change as we evolve.
Okay, what's next here?
Hey, Pat and Ian. I Austin Ostergaard from Lincoln, Nebraska. Longtime caller, first-time listener. My question is for Ian. I'm wondering, when you smoke, what do you smoke? Do you smoke like tree, or do you smoke dabs? Do you prefer carts? And a follow-up question is, what do you prefer to smoke out of? Bong, rig, pipe? Thanks for the podcast, guys. Keep it up.
I prefer blunts and joints, but I often smoke a bowl out of convenience. I prefer actual flower to cartridges or dabs. Dabs, frankly, I'm too fucking old. 38 years old. I don't need that kind of a high. And then cartridges, I use them for convenience, like a vape pen, but I feel like the high is different. I prefer it if I'm just taking the stuff and putting it in a thing and smoking it.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is Charlie from Arizona. I had a question about the cost of living in San Diego. I currently make about $15 an hour, and I want to know if that's about enough that a person would need to relocate to the area. If not, what would you say is a more reasonable wage for a person to live on their own in San Diego? Also, what would you say are the better neighborhoods and the neighborhoods you'd like to avoid when living in San Diego?
Well, I'm not going to go to that area because I don't know the areas that are really bad in San Diego. But so $31,000, $15 an hour, that's not enough to live in San Diego. Maybe if you have like 3 roommates, you won't be saving any money though. You have to make double that. I'd say you have to be making $60,000 a year to be on your own, to live decently and save a little bit of money in San Diego. Something like that.
I don't make that. But also it's Vonnie and I. 15 is too low. If 15 is all you've got, absolutely not. Like 15 an hour, you can't do it. It's just not
31,000 a year is not enough.
You will go
go
insane. One missed check will fuck you up at that level.
Yeah,
of money.
You could live, but you won't be saving any money, and your life will suck.
And like I said, if heaven forbid something happens, you're out of here. I think if you are resourceful and you have a roommate or two, you could probably do it at closer to 20 to 22 an hour. But yeah, you're definitely at living on your own out here with no roommates, no significant other.
If you had roommates, you can do it.
No significant other, you'd probably need 25 to 30 at least.
Yeah, like double.
Yeah.
So 30,000 if you have roommates or help, 60 by yourself. I was making a little over 60 when I moved here, but prices were cheaper then, and my condo.
Yeah, prices have been crazy.
So I bought my condo after the crash, so that's one reason I could afford it.
Right.
So, yeah. But I wasn't saving a huge amount of money when I moved here. Spending all in those video games. All right, we'll do a few more.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Dave from Edinburgh, Scotland.
Hey.
Long-time listener, first-time voicemailer. I've just finished my first coffee table book. It's about side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and I was just curious to find out what your favourite side-scrolling beat-em-ups were. Like Streets of Rage 2, Final Fight, that kind of thing. So yeah, what are your favourites and why? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Well, I know what Ian's favorite game of all time is. But...
I mean, my favorite side-scrolling beat-em-ups right now are Streets of Rage 4 and Final Fight 1. Final Fight 1 because it, for an early entry, not first, but for an early entry into the genre, it nails everything just about right. The feel, the levels, the length, the enemies, the variety, character balance. The story is serviceable but fun enough. I like how
Streets of Fire.
Yeah, it's a great game. And Streets of Rage 4, I just think is kind of the pinnacle of everything that's happened with beat 'em ups to this point. It's fantastic. I played it for another hour and 20 minutes last night. I don't get sick of it, especially the DLC.
Final Fight had something that was important that when Capcom got bigger. Not their mid 80s, even later 80s stuff, which Final Fight was later, but we'll say 90s. The polish of those games, once I got to the 90s, Capcom polish really started to shine.
Well, that was like 89, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. So once you get to like Final Fight and Street Fighter 2, that's miles ahead of like Trojan and Street Fighter 1. It's like almost like 2 generations ahead in like only a few years.
I mean, it sounds silly to say, but those were the AAA games of the time.
But like, Capcom arcade games, there's not one that doesn't look. There wasn't one that didn't at least look and play well. Once you get to like the 90s for the arcade games, they're all.
I'd say they all look fabulous. Sure.
Yeah. So that's the thing about Final Fight. Obviously, I love Double Dragon. Ian doesn't agree.
Ooh, no.
Love Double Dragon because it's such an important game for the genre, and it's fun. I think it's fun. And I grew up playing it. Ian, remember, Ian's a youngster compared to me. He's a whippersnapper, so he might not have played it in the arcade.
I'm a year younger than you.
He didn't have.
Oh no, two.
He didn't have a Boatcraft amusement park to go play it in Route 22, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. He didn't have that, which now is like fucking condos because everything's gonna be fucking condos. Too many people. But he didn't have that, so I grew up playing that, and then Simpsons, Ninja Turtles, fantastic. All the Konami ones were great.
I was gonna say those are Konami.
Sega Spider-Man that I introduced Ian to, so I was shocked he never played that. Like all those I love. They all had such a unique feel to them that were different. At least in my estimation. Even the Konami ones felt different. Like Simpsons felt different than Ninja Turtles in a lot of aspects. That's what it was a golden age of beat 'em ups, like that early 90s.
Yeah, when I say those are my favorites, I don't mean they're the only ones I like. I love tons of beat 'em ups, but I think Final Fight was very important and just very pretty. And then, like I said, it's hard for me not to say Streets of Rage 4.
Hell, give me fucking Captain Commando. I'll play it right now.
Captain Commando's fun.
Give me Punisher, which you never really saw that much. Punisher was great. Like all of them were so good. There's not a lot of clunkers that you remember. They were all just like, these were Alien versus Predator. Like fantastic. Like,
awesome game.
Yeah, can go on forever. We'll do a couple more here.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Ian. This is Josh from Decatur. Why doesn't Nintendo release just a no-frills Switch, and kind of like the Lite, but focus on a premium D-pad, premium buttons, maybe have a regular one and an extra premium edition for a couple $100? It's just no frills, just good controls. You can put the card in it and play it. Why don't they do it? Nintendo, I even got the name for you. It's a switcheroo. Peace.
Okay, that saved it. The switcheroo. Okay, Nintendo's very stubborn
because you're actually right where I would be, because it would be an admittance of defeat.
Yeah,
and they don't do that.
I mean, they kind of admitted the Joy-Cons got drifted. They have a free service to repair them. There's probably is there still a class action lawsuit going on? There probably is with that. But they like the idea of the Joy-Cons being switchable between players. Having the D-pad defeats the purpose of having the buttons.
That's why you got the D-pad on the Lite, because you're not taking those controllers out. They're so stubborn on the fact they're like, no, this works just as good.
I would buy a Nintendo Joy-Con today if they did a proper D-pad version. Today, I spent $40 on
I'd be calling up the new day job being like, I'm going to be late. I have to stop at Target on the way home and get myself a D-pad Joy-Con.
Today. And yes, there are alternatives out there. There's third-party ones. I would buy an NES one. Excuse me, NES. Yeah, they can make an NES-looking one. There you go. Make an NES-looking one. You'll sell 5 million of them within a week, Nintendo. Well, bring me in on the marketing team. Yeah, I don't know why. Because they're stubborn. The D-pad thing is ridiculous. And the Pro D-pad is okay, but it's still not as good. It's okay. It's an okay D-pad. It's not a classic D-pad. Okay, and then do you think there's someone else that
I think we might have someone else involved in.
Okay.
Buongiorno, signore. It's me, Tommy. I'm just all stoked about the Amico getting a nice little article in Game Pro Italy. Of course, the whole thing's in Italian, but all I gotta do is copy and paste it into Google Translate, and boom! Now normal people can read it. Let's see what it said. The Intellivision Amico, created by the rock star of gaming, Tommy Tallarico, that's me, after several postponements, is currently right on track to be the next Coleco Chameleon. I don't think this translation's accurate. Like last night when I was trying to find out what all the pasta shapes mean. Speaking of which, heard you guys talking about how buying you dinner is a good way to change your mind about something, so, Pat, maybe you can meet me at this Italian restaurant downtown. I can get us a table where you can sit with your back to the window there. And you never know, maybe the Amico Mafia might just drive by and say hello. Think about it.
Oh no, Tommy! Not even a veiled threat. You're gonna plug me in an Italian restaurant? We didn't talk about that article real quick. There was a Game Pro Italy article.
Yes, there was,
and it still was maintaining it's coming out. I think it still said October,
yes.
Or October or December, whatever it was. Like it ain't coming out.
Every once in a while, I like to check the
mainstream,
Amico Reddit, the actual Amico Reddit, because
the actual one, the corporate Reddit.
I checked that Reddit because it's interesting to watch, like, the mods back off. And they just don't care as much. I think they realize they're losing fighting a losing battle.
Oh, sure.
And Tommy's got nothing. And there was like, I remember like someone posted the pictures of Tommy posted the pictures of like the games in their cases. And one of the responses was like, "Great, Tom, looks like shit." And it got like 14 upvotes. And then, like, the Amico article one was, like, there was a response in there. I don't know if it's still there, but it was, like, "Wonderful, Tom. When's it releasing?" Like, no one cares anymore. No one cares about any of this shit.
We said, after the third delay, all bets are off.
Yeah.
You get 2 delays is, like, that's it. That's as much...
3 delays is when you can stop expecting people to be nice to you.
3 delays is, like, either something's drastically wrong or you don't know what you're doing. That's the bottom line when you get 3 delays.
Yeah.
Everyone, you can get 1 delay, maybe 2. But even the cultists have, I don't like using that word anymore. I should stop using it because I actually feel bad because I did get used by Tommy and they threw away their integrity just to get a washed up video game composer on their YouTube channel. They're not doing Amico stuff anymore. They're not. Like, they backed off.
Oh, a lot of those
because
people
they
did.
should be embarrassed, and they are getting embarrassed for pumping this up for so long
and having nothing. They really thought it was going to go a different way.
Yeah, but yeah, take shots at us, put us in dresses in your thumbnails or whatever else you want to do. So is that it?